I am flipping 20 plus pieces, my own decor, thrifty finds, and dollar store buys into Pottery Barn Dupes for peanuts. I'm Sonja, and here at Domestic Diva DIY, we are proof luxury is about creativity, not cash. If you love luxury look for less, hit subscribe and join our family. Now go grab a coffee, get cozy, and let's get started on our first DIY project. Starting with these framed arm prints, I found a Goodwill for just $3.99 each. I picked up two, but for today's project, I'll be working on one of them. Now, I actually really like the print inside. It has a beautiful home architecture in it, but the one inside that I found once I opened up the frame up, it had a soft summery feel that I thought was so pretty. But the frame itself needed a little refresh. My plan was to keep the print and give the frame a completely new look. To start, I grabbed my knife, the same one I always keep in my DIY kit. I don't use a new one each time. This one has been with me through a lot of projects. I carefully loosened up the back and removed the artwork. And here's where I was pleasantly surprised. The print on the back was even better than I thought. It's absolutely perfect for summer decorating, so I made sure to hold on to it. Now, just a quick heads up, the camera angle was a bit off-center during this part. I didn't realize it until editing, so thanks for bearing with me on that. As for the frame, I had a couple of ideas in mind, but I finally decided on spray painting. I used a beautiful leather brown shade. It looks like a creamy milk chocolate and gives a real rich base. After covering the whole piece with a solid coat, I wanted to add a little character, so I wrapped a Kleenex or just you could use also just a baby wipe around a pair of scissors and lightly rubbed off some of the paint off the raised edges. This helped lighten those areas and give them a more natural worn look. Once the first layer dried, I went back in with the Rust-Oleum Nutmeg spray paint. Here's the trick. You have to work in sections and you have to work fast. I'd spray a section with nutmeg, then immediately go in with a dry chippy brush and brush it out with soft, inconsistent strokes. This technique created a beautiful faux wood grain effect, and I was honestly amazed at how it transformed the frame. I repeated this process on all four sides, and when everything was completely dry, I reassembled the frame. I taped the artwork to the backing, popped the cardboard back in, and pushed the little nails down to secure it. And look at this transformation. It looks like a custom piece just you'd pay 40 or more for in a store. The best part, I can switch out the print for different seasons, which make it such a versatile piece of home decor. Portion of today's video is sponsored by Two Page Curtain, a brand that totally delivers on that bougie on a budget lifestyle. If you've been wanting that custom high-end designer look for your windows without the luxury price tag, this is the brand you need to know about. Two Pages offers fully customizable drapes and shades that look so elevated without costing a fortune. I added a few of their pieces to my home and I'm seriously impressed and obsessed. I went with List Collection shades, Roman shades in taupe gray, inside mount, cordless, and motorized, and the best part, one remote controls both shades. I chose 60% shading rate, which gives me soft filtered light and privacy at the same time. They glide up and down so smoothly and quietly, and they instantly give a custom designer feel. I also picked up natural Rami bamboo woven shade in coconut. It's cordless, unlined, and inside mount with no edge binding, and that natural woven textures brings such a warmth and character to the space. And let me just say, installation was so easy. I was genuinely surprised at how simple and straightforward it was to get everything up and looking perfect. And I have to talk about their viral drapes. I chose the Sara Lee print pleated drapery in vintage linen. Absolutely stunning. I actually used one of the drapery panels as a shower curtain, and it elevated my bathroom instantly. So luxe and tailored, it looks like a spa. And now this collection even comes in pattern options, so there's truly something for every style. They also come with adjustable clips, which make it easy to get that perfect length even if your measurements aren't exact. And the memory training means the pleats stay crisp and beautiful with no fuss. And if you're unsure about what fabric, pattern, or color to go with, Two Pages makes the selection process so easy. You can order swatch booklets ahead of time, which let you see and feel the textures and colors in your own space so you can confidently choose the perfect look. If you're thinking of giving your home a refresh, I definitely recommend checking out Two Pages curtains. And to sweeten the deal, you can save 20% with my exclusive link, which I've included in the description box below. And don't forget, I'll be sharing a full bathroom makeover and reveal soon on my home channel, so make sure to stay tuned for that. This lamp I picked up from Temu. I absolutely love the shape and the overall design, but it just wasn't working in my space. I think the pale rattan color was throwing me off. So out came the nutmeg spray paint again. I taped off the light bulb and any exposed electrical parts, then gave the entire lamp a good even coat. If you're enjoying these transformations so far, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel grow. And if you love high and look for less, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new DIY. I've got tons more budget-friendly home ideas coming your way. And let me tell you, the color change made all the difference. It now feels warm, cohesive, and fits so much better into my space. It's amazing what a simple can of spray paint can do, especially when you're trying to blend different textures and tones into your decor. Speaking of spray painting rattan, I also gave this thrifted basket a makeover. Now, full transparency, my camera wasn't recording during the actual painting process. Not sure what happened, but I still wanted to share the results. Here's what it looked like after, and here's what it looked like before. Both versions are nice, but I personally love how the new color ties into my overall aesthetic a bit more. It's a subtle change, but sometimes those are the ones that make the biggest impact. I picked this basket up for $3.99, and now it looks like something you find in a boutique for triple the price. Finally, I found these two candlesticks at Value Village for just $2.99. They had great shape, but I wanted them to look more antique, more collected. I started by spray painting them with metallic gold for a full base coat. Once that dry, I added a very light misting of antique bronze and then a few touches of black spray paint just in random spots to give it some patina. The result is the gorgeous aged brass look, elegant, timeless, and perfect for layering into your year-round decor. This project is a Pottery Barn inspired Forsythia wreath. This bright and cheerful piece is perfect for spring, bringing a pop of yellow to your front door or interior decor. Instead of paying retail prices, I'm going to show you how to make a stunning version using affordable materials. The materials that I needed for this was the bunny wreath form from Dollarama, which I picked up for $5. Also, Forsythia stems, they are currently at Dollarama for $1.75. I had some from previous years. You're going to need some wire cutters, hot glue and glue sticks, floral wire, which is optional for extra support. So first, this wreath form was actually wrapped in a wire, which I hadn't realized when I first bought it. To separate it, I used wire cutters to carefully snip away extra wire and remove the bunny shape, leaving just a circular base. I had a mix of older and newer Forsythia stem, and I noticed that the newer ones had slightly larger flowers and were more open. I will show you that in just a little bit. I cut the long stems down into smaller branch-like pieces to create a fuller, more natural look. I started by attaching two longer Forsythia stems to the wreath base first. and secure them with small piece of cut wire and a bit of hot glue. This created a strong foundation. Then one by one, I inserted the smaller Forsythia branches into the frame, making sure to distribute them evenly around the wreath. Some pieces stayed in place on their own, while others needed a dab of hot glue to ensure they were secure. Here is the difference between the new Forsythia and the old one. I checked for any sparse areas and filled them in with extra stems. Once finished, I hung it up on my home sign at the front door, and I absolutely love how it brightens up the space. My DIY cost around $8 in total, and compared to Pottery Barn's $41 price tag. For the first project, I'm starting with a planter transformation. I picked up a pre-mixed can of beige brown paint at a discount because it was a mist such a great way to find high quality paint for cheap. I also found a planter with an attached saucer at the thrift store, which became the perfect base for this DIY. Inspired by Pottery Barn's small decorative pots, I wanted to add texture and character to make it look like an aged clay or a stone planter. To achieve this, I mixed plaster of Paris into my paint and applied 2 coats for depth and texture. I love how the brushstrokes soften the look while adding dimension. I plan to use this for fresh basil since I cook with it multiple times a week. Since I also painted the inside, I'll keep the plant in its original container for food safety. If you try this, you can also use terracotta pots and paint them along with their saucers. This DIY proves you don't have to spend a lot to get the high-end look you love. And here it is. I just added a faux plant to it because I did forget to pick up the basil when I went to the grocery store. So you'll just have to check it out on my home channel to see how it looks with basil if you want to see that. For the last project, I transformed a thrifted wooden shelf that my friend found for me for $7.99. It was the perfect size, but I wanted it to match my kitchen island. I ended up sanding off some of the finish just to clear coat. I wasn't aiming for perfection since I was going to be painting it anyway. I just wanted to rough it up a little bit. I used a hand sander with 220 grit sandpaper that had been used several times, so it wasn't too aggressive, but it still did the job I needed. There are many places where you can find small shelves at different price points. I even found one similar to mine but larger on Etsy for a lot more than what I paid. If you're looking for a piece, just be patient. The right one is out there and you just need to find it. Once everything was sanded down, I brought it inside and used a sandpaper that I picked up at Dollar Tree uh, to get in all the little nooks and crannies that the sander couldn't reach, especially underneath the small hanging parts. This step took a little longer since it was difficult to get in all the tight spaces by hand. Once I was done, I wiped everything down with a damp paper towel. Once prepped, I mixed up my beige brown paint. To prevent yellowing, I followed a trick I've seen in other DIY videos, adding a tiny bit of blue paint to balance out warm tones. I applied the paint with the sponge brush, wiping off excess with the lint-free rag to create a soft, natural finish. I worked by sections so that way the paint did not dry on me. If it happens that you are working on a larger section, just make sure you have a bottle of spray bottle with some water in it so you can keep your paint wet. Once I completed that and the shelf dried, which didn't take long at all, I took some of my Annie Sloan antiquing wax in dark and applied it with a brush. The brush I used was similar to stippling brush, and I worked in very small amounts at a time, brushing it out as I went. This darkened the paint slightly and really brought out all the grooves and wood grain which I love. After applying the wax with the brush, I buffed it out slightly with the rag. You don't need to fully buff the antiquing wax, you can simply wipe off the excess. In my case, I wouldn't say I buffed it out completely, but I did make sure to wipe it well after applying it with the brush to even everything out. Initially, it looked slightly greenish, but as it dried, it settled into a warm, rich tone that matched my island perfectly. Here is how the shelf looks now, and you can see some of the pieces I already added to it. I think it turned out absolutely beautiful and matches my island perfectly, just the way I envisioned it. It's a great addition to this little space which had been sitting empty and was really bothering me. Now, not only does it add a decorative touch, but it also brings in some functionality. This DIY is inspired by the Pottery Barn textured earthenware vase, which retails for a whooping $99, but we're making our own for just a few dollars. I'm starting with a thrifted vase that has a great shape but definitely needs a makeover. To achieve that high-end textured look, I am applying drywall compound all over the vase using a putty knife. This is a trick I use often because it creates a beautiful organic texture that mimics expensive earthenware. If you don't have drywall compound, you can also use baking soda mixed with paint for a similar effect, or even plaster of Paris mixed into a fairly thick texture. Moving on to the vase, once the drywall compound was applied, I did not wait for it to dry before creating the lines. I used a comb to make the lines evenly distributed, referencing my inspiration piece as a guide. This process was very therapeutic and I really enjoyed it. Once it dried for about 24 hours, I sanded down any rough peaks using sandpaper from Dollar Tree. The final result turned out stunning, and I think it's a very close match to the Pottery Barn inspiration piece for just a fraction of the price. You can customize this however you like. You can leave it as is, like I am doing, or paint it with a creamy white, a deep terracotta, or even a soft gray to match your decor. The end result is a high-end looking vase that you would never guess was a thrift store find. Moving on to my next DIY, we're going to transform this flower pot or planter that I picked up at Dollarama for just $1.75. I was immediately drawn to the little braided design because I knew it would be perfect for mimicking the look of wicker or rattan, which is incredibly popular right now. As you can see, similar pieces can be quite pricey online. To achieve that high-end look, I use dark antiquing wax. I'm using any Sloan, but any brand will work. I simply applied it with a brush, making sure to work into all the grooves to enhance the texture. This was such a simple and easy DIY, but the result is absolutely beautiful. It's the perfect way to add warmth and texture to your space, and I think it truly gives that rattan or wicker effect. What do you guys think? Wicker rattan and woven decor pieces are some of my favorite things to look for at thrift stores because they're so much more affordable than buying new. Most high-end stores charge a fortune for these, but thrift stores usually have a great selection. If you don't love the original color, don't worry, you can easily update it with gel stain, watered down paint, chalk paint, or even wax. For my piece, I'm using a combination of dark wax and white wax to deepen the tone while still letting the natural woven texture shine through. So the next piece that I'm working on is this thrifted tray, which I got for just $2.99. It was the perfect shape and I loved the design, but the color was a little too yellow for my taste. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but I wanted to give it a slightly different look. I recently picked up this rattan style bunny from HomeSense and I love the warm natural tone of it. This was the color I wanted to replicate on the tray. To achieve that look, I mixed white wax with dark antiquing wax and applied it to the tray. I think it really helped to tone down the yellow, and the final result was pretty close to the color of the bunny. Like I said, trays like these can be so expensive in stores, so I always keep an eye out for them at thrift stores. This one was actually picked up for me by Sandra. She was out thrifting, sending me pictures, and I grabbed it for me. Sometimes having a personal shopper really comes in handy, and I'm so grateful for Sandra. One thing to note about using wax, it does take some time to cure. Right after applying it, the tray felt a little sticky, and the more I handled it, the more wax rubbed off. But after about 24 hours, it was completely fine. I used the rag to wipe off some of the excess wax and then reapplied a little bit more in certain areas to get that perfect finish. This is such a great way to incorporate warmth and natural elements into your decor, and the best part is that not two pieces are ever the same. This last DIY is a dupe of the extra large fall olive stem from Crate and Barrel, which retails for $89. I love the look of these oversized olive stems, but I definitely don't love the price. To make my own, I wanted to include it here because we are going to recreate it just for $10. I picked up olive branches from Temu for $10 for 5 stems. Each branch had multiple smaller branches, so I split them in half. Using real branch from my yard, I had glued the olive stems onto them, following the natural curvature to make it look realistic. And don't worry, cutting off a branch from a bush or a tree in your yard does not kill that plant. Any longer branches were trimmed down. This is such a great statement piece in a vase, and I love how high-end it looks for a fraction of the price. If you missed my eucalyptus tree DIY, which was a Crate and Barrel dupe, I will link it into the corner for you to check out. For under $10, I now have a beautiful statement piece that looks just as good as the high-end version. This is such an easy way to elevate your floral arrangements and add a timeless touch to your decor. I'm kicking things off with this vase. It had this chicken wire style cage over it and made it look like a little bit more industrial, but I saw potential. I've had it for years. It was recently tucked away in storage, and when I came across this gorgeous Boatwright vase on Pottery Barn, this stunning moody blue with rusty looking base, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. That one is normally $149, and even on a clearance, it's still $118.99. But mine basically free and about to get a serious glow up. First order of business was to remove that cage. Couldn't find my wire cutters, story of my life, so I grabbed some shears instead. The wire was soft, so it actually came off pretty easily. Once I got the cage off, I pulled out the vase, gave it a good clean because wow, it was dusty, and took it outside to start the transformation. For the rustic base, I used a glossy leather brown spray paint. I sprayed the bottom third or so of the vase, leaving a little extra in case I needed to blend it later. Then I brought it back in and grabbed one of my all-time favorite blues, a Busan Blue by Annie Sloan. It's rich, it's elegant, and that chalky finish gives glass that beautiful ceramic texture. I painted the rest of the vase, stopping just above the brown base using my Dixie Belle's Best Dang brush. Once it was dry, I wanted to soften it a bit and add a worn-in feel, so I mixed up some watered-down white acrylic paint. You can totally use white wax for this step too, but honestly, most people have acrylic paint on hand. Mine was towards the end, so I just added water directly to the bottle and mixed it up. I squirted it on the vase first, but I didn't love the way that was going, so I dabbed it on with paper towel, blending it until it looked like it had always been there, like it was meant to be this way. Then I sealed it with clear gloss spray to give it that polished, high-end sheen. And here it is. This might be one of my favorite vase flips yet. It's giving elegant coastal summer vibes, and I love how versatile it is year-round. And if you're loving this Pottery Barn dupe already, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps more people find these budget-friendly ideas, and it lets me know you're into these kinds of transformations. Alright, now let's move on to the second project. I've had this old wooden sign from Hobby Lobby just waiting for a second life, and when I found this beautiful late Aurora rice paper from Dixie Belle, hello, instant inspiration. I've seen framed art pieces like this everywhere lately. Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, McGee & Co., Restoration Hardware, and they're all in the $300 to $400 range. But we're making ours for around $21. I started by slightly sanding the frame just to scuff it up. It didn't seem like it had top coat, but I wanted to be sure the paint would stick. Then I brushed on Dixie Belle's chalk mineral paint in burlap, a warm neutral. Before it dried completely, I went over the frame with a damp paper towel to soften and lift some of the paint, giving it a slight weathered look. Once it was dry, I applied a layer of gator hide as my adhesive, and I opened up the rice paper and took a moment to eyeball exactly where I wanted the design to sit within the frame. I didn't measure too precisely. I just played around with the placement until it felt balanced and visually appealing. Once I was happy with the positioning, I gently laid it down and started smoothing it out, working from the center outwards to remove any bubbles or wrinkles for a clean, seamless finish. I really needed a proper smoothing tool, but I made it work with one of those old Pamper Chef scrapers. After I had paper where I wanted it, I brushed on another layer of gator hide to seal it in. Once it dried, I trimmed the edges very carefully with scissors and a knife because, of course, I couldn't find my craft blade when I needed it. And look at it now. It turned out so elegant and high-end. Definitely one of those pieces that looks like you spent way more than you did. Now for the last DIY, it was actually a Pottery Barn piece to begin with. I found this wooden serving board at a garage sale for just $3. It's the same size as the current $249 footed board Pottery Barn sells, just a different shape. I wanted to give it that vintage reclaimed look you see in their catalog spreads, so I started by sanding off the old finish using my orbital sander with an 80 grit pad. I did not want it to bore you with that, so I just did it off camera. Once it was clean and bare, I applied 2 coats of Dixie Belle Voodoo Gel Stain in Whiskey Barrel. This is a water-based gel stain. I love how deep and warm this color is. And then I sealed it with gator hide using a sponge applicator. I'm not planning to use it for food, it's more for styling, so sealing gives that rich, finished look without worrying about durability. And that's it, 3 completely different Pottery Barn dupes, all with that elevated designer feel without the designer price tag. If you enjoy these projects and want more high-end DIYs on a budget, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Next up, I want to show you a set of thrifted glass vases that I found while specifically hunting for something with a thick rim and a cloudy recycled glass feel. I got really lucky. The larger vase was $3.99 and the smaller one was $3.49. I also picked up a few more from Dollar Tree and Dollarama to round out the collection, especially since I was recreating the look of the Hammered Cafe Hurricane vases from Pottery Barn, which ranged from $134 to $138. To mimic that frosted textured finish, I used gloss Mod Podge and dabbed in on with a paper towel in a sponging motion. This gave the surface a cloudy, hand-blown glass look with extra texture. Don't forget to do a rim too. I repeated this on all of the smaller vases, and once dry, they looked perfectly weathered and collected, just like the originals. All of them grouped together create a gorgeous moment. They'll be perfect on a patio table for cozy ambient vibe when entertaining outdoors. And finally, the last project in today's video is inspired by McGee & Co.'s Woven Hurricanes. These retail from $34 to $38 each, but I made mine for just $8 total. I started with a rattan placemat I found at Dollarama for $4.50 and 2 clear hurricane vases from Dollar Tree in different heights. This idea actually came full circle. I originally inspired my friend Sonja to try a woven placemat vase, and then her version inspired me to create this one. I'll link her project in the corner if you want to check it out. I unraveled the placemat by cutting a few threads and used hot glue to attach the strips to the base of each vase. If you prefer, you can use E6000 or glass glue for extra hold, but hot glue gun worked well for me. I wrapped 4 rows of rattan around each vase, securing it in a few spots for a clear, minimal look. To finish them off, I protected the glass with paper and painter's tape. and gave the rattan a coat of the same nutmeg spray paint. To add a bit more depth, I lightly misted on some black and leather brown spray paint, just to mimic the natural tone variations seen in the McGee & Co. originals. After a final touch-up and drying time, they turned out so good. I think they're a pretty close dupe, stylish texture, and perfect for both indoor and outdoor styling. And that wraps up today's video featuring some of my favorite DIY Pottery Barn designer dupes that give you that high-end look for way less. I hope you found tons of inspiration to decorate beautifully without breaking the bank. A big thank you again to Two Page Curtains for partnering with me on this part of this video. And if you're looking for custom designer quality curtains at an affordable price, be sure to check them out. I'll leave all the details and links down below in the description box. We're kicking things off with a dupe of Pottery Barn's oversized handcrafted sea glass garland, which retails for $128. Mine, it costs under $5 to make. Last fall, I picked up these assorted plastic ornaments from Temu. I had originally planned to use them for a Christmas DIY, but they weren't quite the right size. Instead of letting them go to waste, I saved them knowing they'll be perfect for something else. And this garland was it. Since I didn't have enough of one size, I decided to alternate between larger and smaller ornaments to stretch the garland's length and add visual interest. To give the clear plastic that frosted sea glass look, I use Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Clear Gloss Spray. Pro tip, give them a full coat while rotating them to ensure even coverage. You can sink them into a floral foam or place them on pencils if they have holes, or skewers to spray them easily. Now for the fun part, the rope. The Pottery Barn version threads the rope through the ornaments, but I was about to melt holes into the plastic, so instead I wrapped nautical rope around the knots, tied a small knot, and left a tail to attach them. Yes, I did burn myself a little, because what's a DIY project without at least one minor injury? I knotted and glued each ornament individually, then tied them together to form the garland. I used the hot glue to attach them together. It was a bit time consuming, but so worth it. You could totally recreate this with Dollar Tree ornaments too. The result is beautiful piece that works for summer decor and beyond. At the end, I simply left a larger loop of rope and tied a knot at the top to finish it off. That became the end of my garland. I think these turned out so cute, and the best part, they cost me under $5 to make. I'm really happy with how they came out. They are perfect perfect for summer decor with a coastal beachy vibe, but honestly, you could style them year round depending on your space. Next up is a dupe of Pottery Barn Artisan Studio Rope Candle, which sells for a whooping $79. I recreated the look using a citronella candle I found at Dollarama for $4.50. As you can see, the pot already had great texture, but I wanted to mimic the rope detailing from the inspiration piece. I used a nautical rope and hot glued it around the entire pot. Then, for even more authentic look, I mixed a bit of plaster of Paris into white paint and applied it over the rope to add texture and blend everything together. Once it dried, I painted the inside edge to unify the look without touching the candle wax. The great thing about citronella candle is that once they burn down, you can clean out the pot and reuse it, just pop in another candle or even make your own. And for under $6, this might be my favorite dupe so far. If you're enjoying these Pottery Barn inspired DIYs and want more high-end look for less, hit that like button and subscribe. I've got tons of budget-friendly decor ideas coming your way. For our third DIY, I'm working with a thrifted conch shell. I wasn't quite sure what to do with until I saw Pottery Barn's clam and conch shell candle holders. They're coastal, sculptural, and expensive. While my conch doesn't sit flat like the Pottery Barn version, I still love that organic shape. I used the same textured paint mixture from the last project and gave it a full coat. This really brought out all the natural ridges and details. Now, I didn't add a candle to mine because it tilts, and I was worried it might crack if I poured a hot wax. But if yours sits flat, you could place a glass votive inside or carefully pour your own wax into it. Just do some research, or you can even add some of those sandy looking candles with wicks. But I'm just so worried that the shell itself will crack. But like I said, do a little bit of research to find out if that is the case. Even as just a decorative piece, it still ties in beautifully with the rest of these summer-ready dupes. Now for my last project, I'm tackling another Pottery Barn dupe, this time inspired by the Benchwright rectangular coffee table in a sea drift finish. This gorgeous natural wood piece retails for $13.99, but of course, we're recreating the look for a whole lot less. If you've been around for a while, you might remember this table. A friend of mine was getting rid of it and left it out on a curb, so I scooped it up and gave it a second life. I've actually refinished it twice already, and I just love the look of this table so much that I wanted to bring it back to life again, but with a softer, more natural feel this time, closer to the sea drift finish that the Pottery Barn is known for. Now, the last time I refinished it, the top unfortunately started to peel. And let me tell you, my daycare kids saw that as a green light to start peeling it even more. Eventually, I had to cover it just to keep their little hands off, but it kept lifting on its own regardless. So it was time for another refresh. I started by cleaning the entire surface and giving the top a light, soft scuff sanding, just enough to remove any loose or peeling areas. I didn't sand it all the way down since I planned to apply a paint wash, not not a full coverage coat. For the wash, I used Silk All-in-One mineral paint in the color Sandcastle. This paint has a built-in primer, but I still diluted it to create a more transparent, natural effect. I mixed it about 1 to 3 ratio, 1 part paint to 3 parts water. Using a brush, I applied the wash in sections, then wiped it back using a lint-free paper towel to soften and blend the finish. I repeated the process across the entire table. The wash settled beautifully into the wood, especially in the carved details and corners that would have been a pain to fully sand. While the paint wash alone gave it a nice soft base, it was still a little patchy in some areas. To even it out and add warmth, I followed up with a water-based gel stain. It's called the Voodoo Gel Stain by Dixie Bell in Whiskey Barrel. I love this product. It's so super easy to work with. I applied a thin, even coat using an applicator sponge and let it settle into the wood. This really helped pull the tones together and gave the table that rich, natural depth I was going for. To seal everything and hopefully prevent any future peeling, I applied a protective top coat gator hide. This is a water-resistant, durable finish that will help protect the surface from daily wear, especially in high-traffic rooms like this one. And here's how it turned out. It may not look drastically different from the last version, but I love the more cohesive natural wood tone. The new stain is also much less yellow and I think it brings much less orange, and I think it brings the whole piece closer to that high-end Pottery Barn aesthetic I was after. For our first project, we are creating a dupe for one of the most iconic pieces in high-end decor right now. My inspiration is the Pottery Barn large Joshua handcrafted ceramic vase. These oversized vessels are a staple in organic modern design because they add height and a sense of history to a room. This specific one stands 4 inches high and retails for a staggering $179. I found this beautiful heavy vessel at HomeSense for $39.99, but because it had a few scuffs, I managed to snag it for $32. To get that deep, moody designer finish, I'm using Dixie Bell's mineral chalk paint in Midnight Sky. High-end pottery isn't perfect, it's artisanal. I'm applying the paint in circular motion to keep the surface organic. Many designer vases are actually hand thrown on a wheel, so by using circular motion, you're mimicking the natural throwing lines of a professional potter. For the tight spots around the handles, I'm switching to a small angled brush. Once the base coat is dry, we are adding the soul of the piece. Texture. I'm mixing a scoop of sea spray into my paint. I love the gritty stone-like depth sea spray provides. It literally turns paint into a textured medium. If you don't have it, you can always use baking soda. A little pro tip, I keep my brushes in a Ziploc bag in between the coats so I don't have to wash it all the time. I'm applying this with a dabbing motion. Adding texture is what separates a cheap DIY from high-end dupes. Textures absorb light rather than reflecting it, which gives the piece a much more expensive matte appearance. To finish, I'm using Dixabelle's white wax. The key here is less is more. This white wax is not a finishing wax, just FYI. I'm rubbing it with a brush and then immediately blending it out with paper towel. This mimics the calcium deposits or mineral aging you'd see on Asian pottery found in Europe. A quick coat of easy peasy spray wax protects our work. And just look at this. I saved nearly $150 and have a piece that looks it was plucked right off a Pottery Barn shelf. If you're loving these savings so far, give this video a thumbs up. It helps my channel so much, and let me know in the comments which of these 3 stores is your favorite to window shop at. Now let's keep the high-end vibes going. For our final DIY, I found this ribbed vase for $9.99 at the thrift store. I love the pattern immediately because it reminded me of the rustic brown vase collection at Pottery Barn. In Canada, those vases can run upwards of $100 or more, so this is a true look for less. First things first, I gave it a deep clean. I know I mentioned this a lot, but cleaning your surface is essential. If there's any dust or residue, your paint won't bond properly. Take the extra minute, it's worth it. I used my leftover dried sage and baking soda mixture for the base coat. Since the vase already had that ribbed texture, the baking soda just added a bit of tooth to the finish. Once dry, I moved on to dry brushing technique using pinecone chalk paint. The trick is to dab your brush in the paint and then wipe almost all of it off onto a paper towel before hitting the vase. I follow the direction of the ribs, leaving some of the base color showing through. I repeated the same process with the milk chocolate, and then to finish it off, I dabbed it in certain spots to mimic the smudge, rustic look of the Pottery Barn original. This has become such a statement piece. It's a total conversation starter, the kind of decor my friends and I love to talk about. For my next stone look, I'm using this heavy pot I thrifted for $9.99 and I got 20% off at Value Village. I'm painting this with Ecru, a light beige chalk paint. Again, I'm wetting my brush to keep the application smooth. I was inspired by the Pottery Barn weathered handcrafted terracotta vases. The original is priced over $200, so my savings here are significant. If you're finding these tips helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps my channel grow and lets me know you want to see more high-end dupes. Also, let me know in the comments which high-end store is your favorite for inspiration. And as always, if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't, and the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming DIYs. If you want a rougher texture like the Pottery Barn version, you can add baking soda or sea spray to your paint. I wanted a slightly cleaner look, so I stuck with the natural texture of the chalk paint. To get that distressed finish, I dabbed on some Spanish moss paint with a wet paper towel in random spots. Then I went back with the ecru to blend everything together. I love this technique for adding a vintage European farmhouse feel to a piece. I'm styling this on my counter with wooden spoons, but it would also look great with a live planter or some olive stems or any other vase stems. 20 plus projects later and everything looks designer for peanuts. Whether it was my own old stash or cheap find, that transformation is wild. Which was your favorite? Comment below. If you loved this marathon, please like and subscribe. I'm Sonja, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy DIYing!